So, welcome to today's video. We are going to be talking about the principles underlying all of martial arts. So the principles, we also call these in our system, we call these our fundamentals, okay? And it's easy to think that fundamentals, because they're fundamental, they're at the bottom, they're not important perhaps, but that is the farthest thing from the truth. What we're going to cover today is probably the most important information I could possibly give to you when it comes to martial arts. And we have pioneered what we call a principle-centered system of martial arts. And so these are like the nuts and bolts, the foundation holding up everything that you do. And if you learn through this particular paradigm, it's going to help you in any techniques that you learn in the future. It's going to help you better understand why they work and more effectively incorporate that into your martial arts game, if you will. So I know we're hanging out here in the living room, and so it may seem a little bit casual, but I can't stress to you enough how exhilarating it is to be able to share this type of information, because if you take this particular method of learning, I believe it's going to help you become an expert and a well-rounded expert in a much shorter amount of time. And I could talk all day about it, but let's get into what the principles actually are, okay? So we're going to pull up a screen share real quick. So at the top there, we do actually list into, a lot of people ask what style of martial arts we teach, and it looks a lot like mixed martial arts, but that's because it is legitimately a mixture of martial arts, okay? And if we just think about the different ways that you could fight someone, that's what we've broken into our version of what we call styles. And there are four. These are not the principles. These are styles. You see up there it says stand-up striking, stand-up grappling, ground grappling, and then mixed striking while grappling at the same time. And so with that stuff at the top there, it's pretty much any situation that you might end up in while fighting. Okay, but the actual movement and principles are along the left there, and in between are just some sample techniques that we want to use in order to teach you the underlying principles. Okay, but you can follow this same strategy with any technique that exists to then start practicing at a principle-centered level rather than just the technique itself. So that's just a sample for you there. So let's go ahead and pull the camera back up, and we'll talk about the four principles and give you an idea of what they are. Just give you an overview then of how to do them, and then after we get into the techniques, it's going to make a lot more sense for you. Okay? So let's start off with our passing. What is a pass? That's just when we're closing the distance. Okay? Closing the distance. Okay. Our next set of category for our principles, that's evasion. Evade. And that's when we create space. Okay, very good. Next we have a sweep. What is a sweep? Bink. Boom. That's when we knock someone over, okay? And then we're talking about this last, but we do want to begin with the end in mind, so knowing how to attack, we moved it, and ending the fight. Woo, woo, woo. When you're attacking, you're doing a technique which is intended to end the fight. And so if we actually start by learning the attack, then the rest of the stuff will fall together. You'll develop your own style. And the example I could use, I'm trying to think of some random one. I was teaching one student once when we taught him how to do, say, a sweep, he understood the principles, even though he didn't know any like technical traditional moves. And so the thing is, he could sweep people like flawlessly, but he'd make up all these random ones, and they were all real shoulder heavy. He was like using a lot. This was in, say, a jiu-jitsu class where grappling on the ground, and all of his sweeps he was using his arms. And I stopped for a second and I asked, you know, were you a football player ever? And as a matter of fact, he was. And so he's used to like using his shoulders and arms, tackling forward, and so on. And so it made a lot of sense that because of his background, that's what worked best for him at that time. And so our intention is to give you that same sort of ability to be able to use what you have in your arsenal to your maximal advantage by understanding how martial arts works. So with that said, let's explain how each of these work. And like I mentioned before, we'll get into showing you the techniques, and I think then at some point, if you watch all of them, the light bulb will go on for you. So let's start with our endgame attack, okay? This is a technique intended to be able to end the fight. And there are three things. That's where we isolate a place to attack. We have the rule of opposites in place. I'll explain that in just a moment. And we have to apply force, okay? So isolate means to like deal with it separately from everywhere else. So just as an example, if you're aiming for my chin, then you're going to move myself or yourself however you need to in order for this to be isolated so you can get to it, right? The rule of opposites, I'm going to explain this now, and I feel like some of these are really helpful to explain in grappling context, but I'm going to use Coach Trina for just a moment here, if you don't mind coming up too. This is the rule of opposites. The whole idea is that we are strongest if we have perfectly aligned posture. Now, if I were like walking around like this, I do not have the same mechanical advantage that I have with correct posture. So my goal whenever I'm fighting someone is to align my posture to the greatest possible ability and deviate their posture to the greatest possible ability. Now, when we're grappling, this is where the rule of opposites very clearly comes into play. So I have my partner here, okay? Now, right now, I'm like, let's do that, okay? So I'm standing with perfect posture, but with my arm out. Okay, actually, let's do this one so they can see, right? And I'm twisting her shoulders. So right now, because her posture is deviated and mine is aligned, I have an advantage with my strength because of that, okay? Now, if she were to align her shoulders, it's going to automatically deviate mine. Now she is the one who has the advantage, and now I'm the one who is not as strong, okay? So part of attacks is applying that rule of opposites. Now with grappling, it's really easy to see because she pushes and it forces my body. But the same rule applies as we're striking, because I'm going to either land this punch or she's going to have to get out of the way. Okay, so when we get into striking with no grappling attached, you have to, in a sense, use your imagination some, because the same forces apply, but without contact necessarily. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Boom. All right, so that is the rule of opposites. And lastly, apply force. Okay, so in some way there's force happening. Okay, now we're going to get into evasion. So now evading. This is where we want to create space. Okay, we're going to expand our frame. Okay. Now, what is a frame, you might ask? This is the space between you and your partner. Think of like, I don't know, I always imagine like underneath a bridge, how you actually have those like frames in. Okay, just like we were talking before with grappling, you can see me physically pushing against my partner. Now, if we're striking, then we're not making contact, but that same frame applies. The further I get away, the more of a frame I have in relation to my partner. Okay? What else do we have? Oh yeah, create space and move towards the opening. Sometimes the opening is where they're lightest. Sometimes it's just wherever their opening is. We do want to keep in mind too for striking. I guess the difference between striking and grappling. Tactically, this is considered the inside. In between my 2 feet, projecting outward, this is the inside area. Everything else is outside, okay? It says move towards the opening. If you're trying to really escape from someone, would you want to go inside or outside? It'd be a lot safer to escape out of the situation, right? But it is possible to still just move to the opening on the inside and still evade. But if you're given preference to which direction to go, that's something to consider. When it comes to grappling, you're going to want to sometimes factor in where they are lightest. Maybe it feels like they're crushing you, and technically both legs are down over top of your hips. But as you're moving, one's going to be lighter than the other, and that's where your opening will exist, okay, when you're grappling. All right, so that covers evasion. Next, passing. That's where we neutralize their frame. Yep, we neutralize the frame, isolate their frame, and close the distance. Okay, so a frame, just like we were talking before, if I was grappling, it's maybe my arms or my legs. Same thing if I'm striking. This could be a frame. Okay, I'm blocking. That would be with a hard block, but also this imaginary space between us can exist as a frame. Okay. One way to think of it is like, let's say I'm here with my hands in front of me, okay? If you're trying to land a jab on my chin or my nose, it's not going to be possible. But if you change your angle, you're now neutralizing my frame. Right now I'm framing. Now it doesn't matter. Neutralized. Got past it. You also want to isolate it. So, boom, there's that big schnoz that you're trying to hit me with. And then you close the distance. In that case, we're talking striking. And then the same thing applies with grappling, though. Neutralize it, isolate it, and then move forward until we have control over the core of their body that we'd be going for in that situation. So, lastly, we're going to talk about the sweep, knocking them over. Okay, this is where we neutralize their base. Okay, now their base, if we're just on 2 feet, it's literally like our legs. Okay, if you push this way, I still got this leg here. If you keep pushing, I might no longer have that base. If I'm on the ground, my hands and legs can apply. Okay, and if I have a lower, wider base, it's more stable. Right now, it's less stable, okay, your base. So you want to make that irrelevant. You want to maximize your point of leverage. When you're striking, your leverage comes from the ground and your legs and your hips, okay? But sometimes when you're grappling, the leverage has to do with where you are choosing to move your partner, like where you're connecting on them. And then lastly, to actually... these all have to occur simultaneously. It's not in a numerical order. But to complete the sweep, you also need to move their center of gravity beyond the structure of their base. Okay? That's what SOB stands for, structure of their base. Okay? So move that COG beyond that SOB. So typically center of gravity is right here, about where the belly button is, right above your hips, right? Or we just think of it as our hips. But if they're not really going to get knocked over until that center of gravity goes past where their base is. So see, I was falling over. Oh no! But if I move my foot, it'll stop me because I changed my base. Okay, so hopefully that helps. I know that's very conceptual without actually working on techniques yet, but that's an overview of the 4 principles that make all of martial arts work. Okay, so quick review real quick. We have our end game attack, where we end the fight. Maybe you could just pull all these up and just put them somewhere on the screen. We have an evade technique, right, where we're creating space. We have a pass technique where we're closing the distance. And we have a sweep where we're knocking the person over. Okay? So, yeah, kind of. Oh, they're all populating. I get confused on here with my left and right. Oh, that was weird. It actually did follow my hand. Yeah, I was thinking like 4 corners. That's okay. It's more fun live this way. Hold on, that stuff is not what we want.
What do you want?
Pass. Evade. Why did I put a timer on? I don't know. Why are we doing any of this? It's crazy. Okay. So, knock somebody over. Close the distance. Oh, here's that attack thing, right? Oh, that's going to go there somewhere. Sweep. Yep, here we go. Evade. Whoops. Pass. Attack. And do you guys remember what attacking means? Ending the fight. Boom. All right, so now we got them all up there. But these are the 4 principles that make all of martial arts, like I say, the most important thing I could ever possibly give to you. Okay? So what we're going to do here in the next upcoming videos, we'll actually show you, we'll go to the screen share real quick. So the process for this, hopefully you can see, that's fine that those are up there too, it's okay. But you can see that for each of the styles, we just have a couple techniques, one for each of these principles. So the way to practice this, we'd actually want to, one at a time, practice the technique. Okay, first make sure you know it pretty well. Then after you get a chance to do the technique, you're going to practice the same one, but we're going to break it down by those the principle. Okay, so for instance, with a sweep, we'd talk about like how we're sweeping them, right? How we're moving their center of gravity, where our leverage point is, why it works. And you're going to practice it a few more times, but being conscious of the principle that underlies making it work. But then step 3, then we invite you to be put in new situations, new positions, different weight distributions and angles and all kinds of situations. And you will slowly take your time to find solutions to all of those situations. So if it's a sweep, you will try and sweep the person from a brand new spot, even if you have not learned a technique from there. Or if you do know one, maybe try something creative in order to begin practicing the why instead of just the what. Okay, so let's switch back to the camera here. I think we're going to just stop right there for now. We'll eventually be putting this on our online university, and so you'll have a chance to, this will be part of our overview video, but then we're going to get into each of those techniques and help you practice. And like I said, after you actually start doing that, I think the light bulb will go on for you, and this may very well change your entire perspective on your approach to training martial arts. So hopefully that's valuable to you. I know it's changed my life, something I've been studying over numerous years to my best of abilities. Check out anything related to meta learning. There have been a lot of advances in understanding the best methods for learning a skill. So thank you very much. Look out for the next video, and I look forward to seeing you soon.